Hello and welcome to Morocco and the historic city that's sometimes known as the country's cultural capital, Fez.
From its medinas and mosques to its madrasas, Fez is steeped in cultural heritage. So much so that the Medina of Fez is listed as a World Heritage Site.
Mind-blowing, absolutely incredible. This is the Atarine Madrasa. It goes back to the 14th century and it is perhaps the best example of what they call Zelish.
Zelish is a style of mosaic tilework made from individually hand-chiseled pieces that is found all across Morocco, as well as parts of Tunisia, Algeria and southern Spain.
The detail, tiny, tiny detail.
The art form dates back over 1,000 years, but the more intricate and colourful designs which have become synonymous with Moroccan architecture were developed in the 14th century.
أعمق لهذا الزليج، فالزليج المغربي لما نتمعن فيه هو يعطي واحد الحوار مع الإنسان لما تنظر إليه. عندما تنظر أنت إلى هذا الزليج ربما أنت تهتم بهذا اللون الأصفر، ربما أنا أهتم بهذا اللون الأزرق، وبالتالي هذا الزليج يعطي عدة قراءات حسب الناظر الذي ينظر إليه، فهو من الأشياء الفنية الفريدة من نوعها.
Despite its mixed origins and geographical spread, experts like Faoud believe that Zelish is a vital part of his country's history and culture.
حقيقة الزليج في ارتباطه بالهوية المغربية يمكن أن نقول أن المغاربة كلهم بدون تمييز عرفوا الزليج إما في منازلهم ولا سيما جيل الستينات والسبعينات هادو يعني ولدوا في بيوت قديمة تراثية.
Authorities here have long wanted to formalise Zelish's Moroccan connection. It's not uncommon for countries to do this by gaining UN-recognised intangible cultural heritage status. For example, the French recently achieved this with the humble baguette, as have Jamaica with reggae music. But in the case of Zelish, Morocco went a stage further and insisted on having it patented. It's part of a drive to protect the country's assets from cultural appropriation and commercialisation.
We call it the positive protection, and that is just to protect their traditional knowledge, or in this case, cultural expression, from other people's using it in a different way and exploiting them. It's not black and white. There is a lot of nuances. The use of traditional cultural expressions or knowledge.
What is black and white is the threat to its future. The skilled craft is facing competition from cheaper mass production and fewer people interested in taking up the practice. I travelled to a traditional workshop just outside the Medina to find out just what goes into this ancient process.
How many of these do you think he does every
day?
Yeah.
So every day depends. If, for example, he can make up to 1,000 pieces a day.
Has he ever banged his fingers?
عمرك ضربت يديك اللي كنت كتضربها بسميتو؟ عمرك ضربت يديك قال لك؟ لا هذا No, never.
Saeed's craft skills were learned as a boy, and some Zelish producers are worried that these techniques will not be passed down to future generations. And that's partly because pay and working conditions are not as attractive as in other industries. Saeed earns around €12 a day.
As you're seeing, he's doing this by hand as well.
Yeah, look at
Nothing
that.
else.
Wow. And again, this is exactly the same way
This is exactly
they did it
the
for
same.
hundreds of years.
Apprenticeships can take up to a decade, and for most people, it's a lifelong dedication.
So we do have our artisans who work as a couple, okay? The first one who is the one responsible of cutting the tile, as you're seeing here, with this specific type of pencil. Okay? You just take the shape of it, the design of it.
Yeah.
You start cutting it one by one, piece by piece, with a sharp hammer.
I don't know who I think I am, but I'm going to have a go at trying to create a shape from this. And apparently, you have to sit down exactly the way this guy was sitting down before. So here we go.
It can take 6 months just to achieve the correct sitting position, let alone try to cut and shape the tiles.
You're doing a great job.
I'm doing a great job.
All right.
Oh, there we go. Right. Well, I tried.
After assembling all the pieces, we bring them all the way to another artisan who is responsible of putting the pieces next to each other. Every single piece, it's like a type of puzzle.
So, what does Othmane think about Morocco's successful claim of ownership of Zelij?
Morocco is very well known when it comes to its culture and traditions. And the heritage, the culture of the heritage that we have is typically Moroccan. And those artisans that we're talking about are typically Moroccan as well.
As for the future, it's hoped that the craft with its new protected status will survive, thrive and proudly proclaim made in Morocco.
ليس يعني منشأة une œuvre لفنان واحد. هي منشأة لمجتمع.
Now, if you're thinking of taking a trip to Morocco in 2023, here are some travel show tips as to things you might want to see and do.
Now, did you know that Morocco is the very first country on the African continent to build a high-speed railway? Whipping along at 320 kilometers per hour, the Al Barak service will take you from Tangier in the north to the capital, Rabat, and down to Casablanca in around 2 hours. That's less than half the time of the older network. And there are plans afoot to expand the line to Marrakesh and Fez, and eventually to other major cities. If you're into photography, then head to Chefchaouen, considered one of the prettiest and most photogenic places in Morocco. Nicknamed the Blue Pearl for its traditional blue and white painted houses, the city sits at the foothills of the Rif Mountains in the north of the country. And if you're visiting, don't forget your hiking boots for a trip up the surrounding mountains. You'll be rewarded with spectacular views of the city from above and another perfect photo opportunity.
Now, something that's highly recommended, not just here in Fez, but all across Morocco, is the traditional mint tea. Especially good after a heavy meal.
Served as a sign of hospitality, it's made of fresh peppermint, water, sugar and green tea, and is said to have healing properties.
Into this walled city, the Medina, and my task, my challenge, is to go from here to another gateway, another of the 7 gateways, as quickly as possible. Now, you may say, very easy. I think you might be wrong, because there are 9,000 alleyways here, which makes it the biggest Medina in the world. Am I allowed to look at Google Maps? No, I'm not. I think that is actually going down a blind alley. I'm not going to do that. Oh, now we've got some choices to make. No, that way, I think. I saw a sign earlier on which said, no donkeys. This guy has got through somehow. But some people who are actually born within the city walls never leave the city walls during their lifetime. Whoa! That was close. There's a man in more of a hurry than even me. Some of these hats would be perfect. I would, honestly, this is the kind of place I would stop at if I had time, but I have not got time.
Thank you so much.
This is the square called Sefarin, and as you can hear, this is the original Tin Pan Alley. We have walked from one gate to another through the Medina of Fez.